I went to work for my dad out of college, and to make a long story kind of short, we did have a falling out, and I left for a while. Got a real estate license, and by God's grace, and I truly mean that, I was able to enroll in the TCU Ranch Management Program, only to find my way back to the industry I loved. Part of Justin's questions were, did I always see myself returning to the ranch? I never wanted to do anything else. This has been the passion of my life, and this is all I have ever wanted to do. And I've worked very, very hard to get to where I want to, where we are today. But anyway, I left for a while, and after after leaving TCU, I went through appraisal school. I thought, well, I could prepare ranch management plans for various people, and also had my real estate license. And my dad called me and he said, I want you to come home. And so we worked out a deal, and I told him I would come home. I wanted the ranch to be profitable, and I would take 5 years to do it. If I couldn't do it, then I was going to leave and he'd have to find somebody else. So we made a deal, and I don't know if you all were familiar with Dr. Jim McGrann at Texas A&M, but he and the Noble Foundation and John Merrill at TCU were probably instrumental in helping me pursue a plan and get this ranch back on track for, if something were to ever happen, it could be self-sustaining. We don't have any other income. We live and breathe off what we make here. So we have to be very open-minded and objective about a lot of things. This ranch has, when we came over here to Jefferson County, we were originally from Bryan and Atoka counties over in eastern Oklahoma, and my dad bought country over here in Jefferson and Stevens County, and I came on board to be the general manager. So at that point in time, we had a small number. We had probably 600 acres of wheat ground. As we added property to this, we ended up with about 3,500 acres of wheat ground. So we have always run a fall and a spring herd. We have grazed wheat pasture cattle. And that was really the big impetus for us to come over here to Jefferson County. I think at one point in time, NCBA had Jefferson County having probably as many stocker yearlings as any county. I think it was third or fourth in the nation, but there's lots of wheat pasture over here, all dry land too. And then in 2011, it quit raining. So we had to make some big decisions, and I may be getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I think one thing I want to emphasize about our operation is we really evaluate the situations, and we try to get ahead of what might be coming down the pike and position ourselves where we're not going to be behind, and we can be aggressive about the future and what we want to do. We aren't locked into a status quo, for lack of a better word. And one thing I would like to say also is we are big on tradition. We are big on legacy. But I think we and I'm really speaking about Robert and Clay and I at this point in time, have always been open-minded, and we all have a real strong vision for the future, and that's to incorporate the next generation and make this ranch continue to be a generational ranch for the future. You want me just to keep going through the questions, or kind of?
Well, or I can ask those if you want, and that way we kind of get them kind of recorded back and forth. And if we want to massage those questions as we go. I think that's the normal kind of how I follow through them. But no, I think that covers that first one really well there in terms of the history and kind of bringing you back to the ranch and the operation there. And so I think that's does a nice job of describing that. So one of the things that intrigued me about the 7S, Terry, was that you're incredibly diverse, and so ranches are diverse operations. You've got different enterprises. Here in Kansas, and you alluded to it as well. It's not uncommon to have kind of a farming operation, a ranch, cow-calf operation, maybe a stocker operation. For you guys, you've got the hunting and the lodge and some other things you've kind of that you're doing there. So, how do you manage those operations that have got different enterprises? How do you manage multiple enterprises? Do you think about multiple units within the same enterprise? How do you guys kind of break that down on the 7S in your operation?
So one thing I would like to backtrack just a little bit. As I said, we try to really think ahead. And so we got to where labor was becoming a big problem here, and farming labor specifically. As I said, we had about 3,500 acres of wheat ground, and all not all farmed, obviously, but grazed. So I have been a big grass manager, soil, all those things. Land management has really, really intrigued me my whole life, even before all the buzzwords, sustainability and regenerative and all those. We've tried to put those things into place. So I came up that we were going to try no-till, and Jim Johnson at Noble Foundation was a really good friend of mine, and we thought we could do it. And everybody in Jefferson County said they said I was an idiot, basically. So I said, you can't do that in Jefferson County. Well, for about 3 years, I looked pretty smart. And then on year 4 was not working. The compaction was getting us. So we were struggling, trying to graze it, and our labor situation wasn't working really good. So the logistics of farming were really not working out. Plus, the weather patterns seemed to have changed. And instead of going to wheat after Thanksgiving, it may be January before we'd get cattle on wheat. So we felt like we should go ahead and maybe change what we were doing. All the wheat pasture cattle, we bought cutter bulls out of Alabama. We grazed our own cattle. We also took in cattle for other people. So we had a large yearling operation at that point in time. And it was very profitable. So, I mean, it's just the logistics of the farming became something that we were really struggling to evaluate, and the cost of equipment, just some different scenarios evolved. So we basically got out of the farming business and put all of our farm country back into grass and increased the size of our cow herds. We operate a spring and a fall herd, and I believe that for us, it helps spread our risk, for one. And two, we're able to use dry cows in pastures that would not be conducive to pairs. And it's allowed us a lot of opportunity to utilize our grazing management. One thing I'd like to mention about our country here in Jefferson and Stevens County, we're surface water dependent, no groundwater. So we'll run out of water way before we run out of grass. Right now, we're in a very, very bad drought. Our tanks are extremely low. And we've got lots of fuel. So we try to utilize pastures that we know will have adequate water supplies at certain times of the year. Multiple enterprises. So we also have a large quarter horse operation. And I think for us, we have utilized the different enterprises to complement each other. I mean, everything we do we use the horses here. We have show horses, or have had in the past, but we also use them as a tool. Horses have been our main. We use our horses to pen cattle, to move cattle, to brand, and everything else. They are a tool for us as well. So we have been able to incorporate our sizable quarter horse operation into that. And also we have developed an online sale in the last, we'll have our third one this year, and been able to expand some of the opportunities with the horses that weren't available several years ago. And I think that's what I was trying to say about looking at different opportunities, looking at different options, and seeing where we best can utilize the resources that we have. My youngest son came back from school and started working. There was a trainer here leasing stalls, and he started working for him. So he learns kind of the horse business. I do all the breeding, handle all the brood mares myself, but Robert's in charge of all the development of the young horses, and he's got a crew of 2 men now that help him ride 2-year-olds and get the horses ready for a sales or future events, I suppose would be the best way to say it, to progress with other buyers. So the horses we've worked into, that is an enterprise. Cows right now, and probably for a while, I don't see us going back to the stockers. We have fall and spring, but we also have a very large Corianny cow herd. Our beef cow herd is basically Hereford and Angus, and but we got into the Corianny business about 2 years before COVID hit. And the reason I mention that is because we went into the meat business during the year COVID hit and had the Stuart Ranch Meat Company for about 4 years. Very successful, very successful. We ended up having a packing house put in here up at Comanche, Oklahoma, state of the art. Marcine Muldauer actually came down and designed it for the gentleman that put it in place. And we were able to process 24 head at a time. They also had a storage facility for everything that we had. They had a shipping facility, so we didn't even have to handle it. Sold it all online through our website and did very, very well until the owner of the facility walked in one day and locked the door to the kill floor and basically told us he was through. So that created another little interesting event, but we were able to sell all the meat we had on hand, and we actually sold the cattle that we had in the feed yard. They were worth a lot of money at that point in time. Cattle prices were really high obviously there, and the Corianny beef crosses were what we were putting in our meat company. They were worth a whole lot more money on the hoof than they were to drag them out for that additional time to make that extra $1,000. So we pivoted there as well. But so we're out of the meat company business, but we have Stuart Ranch Outfitters, which my oldest son began when he came back from TCU. And I told him he was more than welcome to do it, but I wasn't going to give him a dime. So he put this together over the years, reinvesting the money he made. I'm extremely proud of him. 3 years ago, after about 5 years of heavy consultation, visiting with the bank, getting a business plan put together, we built a 14-room lodge, first-class, premier hunting operation. And I hope I'm close to being correct, but he ran, I believe, 500 to 600 clients through the lodge this year. So our big hunting is waterfowl, deer, and turkey. We also have some pen-raised quail hunts for the waterfowl clients when they're here in the afternoons. Justin, am I getting to what I'm supposed to, or am I rambling?
No, I think that's good. The question I was going to kind of follow up to all that, operations come in all different sizes, right? And
Yep.
so as I think about, opportunities and we talk about diversification, you have any thoughts for some of those smaller operators and those opportunities and how to look at those? And
Well, we obviously didn't start quite that big. Our one of the resources we had was the wildlife, and I think the wildlife complements the cattle operation. We're big prescribed burners. We do a lot of waterfowl habitat management now, and I think that those kind of things, once you see evaluate the resources on your property, and it really doesn't matter how big or small you are. I know John Merrill um, had us go work through a worksheet kind of type thing that was, think of anything that you could do to make money on this outfit, anything that would be complementary. I mean, all ideas were valuable. And I think that I've always been kind of that person, just what can we do? Where can we go? How do we use our resources, optimize our resources, and still allow us to take care of what we feel is God's creation and our responsibility. One thing I do want to throw out for all of us, everybody in the room and us included, cash flow is one of our biggest problems. And so for me, trying to increase the cash flow or the times that we're getting those checks certainly has helped the way we manage this operation. So my best advice is just to be able to recreation's a big thing now, and I think people are coming up with ways that they can enhance production. We've got a dairy around the corner, just a little one. Then she sells milk. I mean, there's just, I think, a lot of things. As long as somebody's willing to work and work hard at doing things, there's lots of opportunities.
so I think that kind of covers that second question. I think we've covered different aspects of it. I'd asked it a little differently on the sheet that I gave you, but yeah, I think that's, we talked about evaluating new opportunities. You kind of said that for you guys, that comes back to resources. So I think that seems like that's kind of a constant theme. So we might just move to that third question that I had on the sheet that kind of talks about, how you guys approach capital improvements. And if there's something else you want to touch on and back up, we can sure do that. But I think that's really valuable. As we know, all ranches have infrastructure. That infrastructure wears out, as you think about working pens and just some of the things that you've built over time. How do you look at those capital improvements on your operation? Conversion of windmills, that's a big one that I think about for a lot of people. That's pretty common. You guys are mostly surface water, but some things like that. So
Interesting question for us, because we're kind of in that, we are really doing some work right now. Grateful very much for high cattle prices, and it's allowed us to have some cash to build back some honor system fences we have. But one of the really bright spots of that, a lot of the country that we acquired over here in Jefferson County had fences in really not the best places. They have been good, and we have just kind of cobbled them together and kept them up through some of the leaner years. And we've had quite a few lean years, as everyone has had. But we now have an opportunity to put fences back in places that aren't running through washes and around water gaps in a better spot. We have designed we've been working on it for 5 years, waiting for the day when we had the cash to be able to put it together, to make these things, our pastures, flow more efficiently. I remember the days when we had 5, 6, 7 guys, on the crew. Today we're down to 3 camp men and my 3 boys, and I mean, we move a lot of cattle with 1 or 2 people, period. So labor is a big factor in all of our businesses, and we've been able to decrease our labor considerably over since the 90s. And I am looking to do that even more with the way we design our pastures and our fences. And so that has been almost a blessing that we've been able to start putting fences back. It'll take us a couple of years probably to do it. We've also been able to add a couple of more branding pins that will allow us, our ranch, it's quite a distance across the ranch, and trying to get cattle to the pens, it really cuts in our rotation. We've got to move cattle quite a ways, and this will really help expedite, help us become way more efficient. Obviously, windmills aren't an issue here. In 2011 we did try to dig some wells. There's obviously some old home places here. The water here is pretty shallow. If you go deep, you hit toxic salt, and the recharge is 3, 4, 5 gallons a minute. So not just, I mean, you'd have to have storage systems, pipe into tanks, situations like that. But that being said, during this last cold spell we had a couple of weeks ago, into January, our rural water situation, which all of our camps are on rural water, had a problem with it, and we were without water for almost 4 days. So here at the horse barn where I live, the fire department was bringing water out in tanks, filling the water troughs up. So that is something we are going to address this year, and we are looking at possibly building a reservoir in a real wooded area that would be great for waterfowl habitat as well, but that we could pump water out of in situations. Storage won't work out here. I mean, people I know catch runoff, but the catch on that is it's got to rain. And when it doesn't rain, we use a lot of water, and I just don't think that would be the solution, and it's expensive. So to your point, we are evaluating how we can be less dependent on rural water, and that's probably going to be a priority for us the next year or two, because we are more drought situated than rain. I mean, it's when's the next one going to be? Facilities. One thing that I was going to say as well, for us, we try to, I guess, try not to get ahead of ourselves and kind of have a plan on what we are going to replace and when we're going to replace it. And that way we try to make the money available to be able to pay for it at that point in time. Truthfully, here, finding someone to build fence has been taking an act of Congress, but we do have a good crew right now, and so we're going to kind of roll through that. Fortunately, most of our working pens are in pretty good shape. We have 2 big sets of pens, and they're on the north and south side of the ranch. Right now, they're all right, and we can buy some time with that. But I think available cash would be the one thing that I would consider, and we try to prioritize so we don't just get hit with everything falling apart at the same time.
No, it sounds like water is a big part of that risk management and grazing resiliency. And I think we have similar issues with water, albeit groundwater resources here and the diminishing, but those are diminishing as well. I knew a little bit about your background with the TCU and kind of that ranch management program. So I put this question in there about performance indicators, kind of down there on the sheet there, and talking about, we call them KPIs, but they go by a lot of different, some people, aren't familiar with that term. But what do you think about for ranches like financial indicators? And you talked about cash flow. We've heard that. What about performance or production indicators of just maybe ranch health and kind of where things are going, or what factors that you guys look at in your operation?
I would like to say profit. If we're not going to be profitable, we probably won't be in business. I know that's kind of a short answer, but we watch our cost. We run a budget every year. Our inventories are, Jana gives me a cash flow. Right now, we divide our enterprises into three entities: Bar S Coriani Cattle, which also included the meat company at that point in time, Stuart Ranch Outfitters, and Stuart Ranch. So I get a cash flow profit loss on each of those entities every month. So I can kind of see how we're going, and I'm pretty sure that after all these years, it's fairly consistent. I know when we've got cash coming in. I know when we don't. We do a lot of risk management. We use the LRPs. And for instance, I've already sold my fall steers to deliver in June. So we do forward contracting. And I think for us, those things work very, very well, because I know right now basically what my calves are going to bring and how to plan through that. We still use Dr. McGrath's spa data on trying to evaluate cost and where we can see. But in all honesty, I can pick up pretty quick where we are having problems, and if we are. One thing we did change 3 years ago, I believe, we switched to Purina's liquid feed, and part of that was because of weather situations and being unable to get to cattle in some of our bigger pastures. James Henderson's a very good friend of mine at B3R. We had a lot of conversation about it. Purina came up here. We've actually not increased our feed cost. It's fairly stable. But one thing we've done is we've increased the body condition, a consistent body condition on our cows. And I think that's paying off for us. So a little hesitant to try that. I had Keith Lusby in animal science, and he was always against liquid feed, and that was still ringing in my back of my head. So, but we've been real happy with it, and we've been real happy with what it is costing us. So we monitor that consumption. Purina's up here helping us. Dave Lawman at Oklahoma State has been a good, dear friend of mine for a long time. So we are in constant contact with Dave on nutritional issues and things and any problems that I may or may not be having. But I think that our inventories, our profit loss monthly, we stay on top of everything that's happening on a real consistent basis. And I will mention, we have a lot of overhead here. There's a lot of houses. I mean, we have houses for each of our employees. And so there's a lot of overhead that ends up going into our cost. And those are the little things that really get you sometimes, is an air conditioner going out that maybe you hope didn't. And so we've got to kind of plan for those emergency situations as well. So it's a continual, I think being abreast of everything that's going on a continual basis keeps us in a good position. And as a backup, I do have something to fall back on in a line of credit if we get into that situation. I'm not a big debt person. I will say that.
So we've kind of talked about, I think it's pretty obvious to me, you do some cost benchmarking, right?
Yes, sir.
And so I'm going to kind of move in here a little bit to, earlier in my presentation, we talked a little bit about depreciation. I kind of mentioned it. And so I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, because I think I think the comment I gave you was depreciation is always a little bit understated, I think, in ranching. And so I just wanted to get kind of capture your thoughts on depreciation, if that's something you think about, both
Mhm.
from an equipment inventory standpoint and maybe even on the cow side as well.
Very much so. We don't buy cows, but we do buy bulls. And I just bought bulls this year. And I actually called our accountant after I thought, I mean, I was pretty sure what I wanted to say about this, but I just wanted to get her opinion as well. And the fact that we can, she's calling it bonus depreciation, and the fact that we can depreciate, for instance, all the bulls I bought this year, that is a big plus for our outfit. So we utilize depreciation in that form. Equipment purchases, don't buy a lot of equipment, but right now it may be that we have got some that we need to um, we utilize enough of it. I have to be honest with you there, but still we use depreciation and are really grateful to be able to 100% expense it at this point in time.
So kind of moving through our list of some structured topics here. I brought up land leases just because I think they come up a lot, and I didn't know all the elements of the 7S or whether you did much of that. It doesn't sound like you guys do a lot in the lease side of things. Do you have any thoughts there, or did I kind of miss that as we were having our discussion?
No, and we don't lease a lot. We've tried. I mean, it's just we haven't been able to do some of the things we wanted to do. Um, Not just a whole lot of land right around here to lease. Um, in 2011, I will tell you, we leased country quite a ways away from here and hauled cows over there. So it's not that I'm opposed to it. Right now, I would rather be a little closer within Oklahoma or North Texas if possible. And it's really hard to find country to justify at this point in time that somebody else doesn't already have leased. Clay does lease some land around Warwick Lake for waterfowl just to have some additional places. We've spent one thing that I don't think I mentioned on developed capital improvements is what we do yearly on waterfowl development, developing sloughs, being able to pump in and out of different creeks. And that has enhanced our waterfowl tremendously. We are on the edge of a flyway, and to be able to develop the waterfowl habitat, which also enhances water development for the cattle, it's a win-win situation, has been a big plus. But we dedicate a certain amount of money every year to waterfowl development. So he does lease some country to if we need some additional land to go hunt.
So let's kind of switch there a little bit, and because I want to make sure we get plenty of time to answer some questions from the group here as well. As we think about production traits on the ranch, what data do you guys track? What do you feel is maybe the most meaningful?
I think the more information you have that you can utilize, I think the better off you are. Fertility is a big issue, mothering ability for me, because we are a cow outfit. And so preg checks, I think that's critical for us. But probably the biggest thing for me is wean calf crop and letting that calf get on that truck and get out of here, and I get a check, because that is where we make our money. So I not only have to get that cow pregnant, I've got to get that cow to wean that calf, and then that calf be healthy enough to get on the truck. So I would say that all the production parameters that follow that routine are extremely important to us, and we calculate that. As I said, we use the SPA data, or Dr. McGrand's set up on that, so it actually gets us pounds wean per cow, all the efficiency numbers on those kind of things. And it's interesting to track. We don't strive for the biggest weaning weights necessarily. I really am of the opinion of the moderate, efficient cow, and maybe 10 more cows rather than 10 more pounds. That's worked well for us. We private treaty our calves, sell them, and have for probably 20 years. Um, Actually, the gentleman that's buying our calves right now, comment was made up at a bull sale the other day that um, don't let them to sell their calves to anybody else, basically. So I'm very honored. I think our calves have done an exceptional job, and I think we're really good at producing calves and cows and calves. And so the parameters that go around that production are what we look at the most. The efficient cows, um, we have a lot of longevity is a big deal in our herd, and so developing that cow herd to uh, raise a calf and put one on there and not, I mean, because we sell our open cows. So if a cow's 10 years old here and still pregnant, she's done a pretty good job and she's kind of on the ticket for free.
So you spoke a little bit about your process of coming back to the ranch. Um, any thoughts on, navigating generational transitions? That always comes up. I think that's a good place, to kind of branch off into some different comments. But just thoughts on someone who's going through that process. What advice would you give them?
Well, family operations are not easy at all. Uh, and I learned probably the hard way between my dad and I of things I really didn't want to do. My dad threw me to the wolves completely, totally. Brilliant man, but he wasn't a teacher. And I he passed away really early, and all of a sudden I was I had I had to step up, which is fine. Um, but I was really, if my kids wanted to come back, I really wanted them to have a vested interest. Both Robert and Clay forged their own paths in this business. They made their own way. And I'm really proud of them for that. And I think kids that are able to do that, where they have a vested interest, they're allowed to fail, they're allowed to succeed. And we three make all the decisions anymore. They basically say, well, no, that's your deal. But in all honesty, at least they're aware of it. Whether and right now the buck does stop with me. If everything goes great, good. It's all of us. If it goes bad, it's on me. Period. And that's the way I believe. But one thing I think family operations carry that nothing else does is an emotional attachment. And it took us a while to be able to say, this is family, this is business. And my boys actually they call me T, but don't call me mom. And I think that's okay. Because mom has a whole different connotation than just my name. And I think we're a very, very close family, very close. All my kids live here. My grandkids live here. We live and work together. But this is a business, and we run it as a business and it's taken us a while, but try to take the emotions out. And that's what I've told everybody that I come across that ask me about family operations. I said, you've got to be strong enough to remove those emotions, that this is about business, not about hurting somebody's feelings or getting your nose bent out of shape. But we've transitioned very, very well. Very well. It wasn't easy, but they have a vested interest. We work as a team. Um, Boys work really, really well together. And I just, it can be done. And I think family operations are the greatest things in the world. And for us, we love doing business with family operations, our bull buyers or our bull suppliers. I mean, for instance, and I mean, I can go on, but people that have generational values and generational desires to perpetuate what they're doing, it means a lot to us.
For sure. So I'm going to combine these next two questions a little bit, if you will. I'd ask you to maybe think about, some of the challenges that I think ranches are facing, and maybe we can, in that, maybe kind of lump in there about those. One of those challenges is the young. Yet, it's really challenging for new operations or for younger operators to get started and run cows and afford country to run on. And so just kind of share some of your thoughts with those challenges and maybe talk about some advice you might have there.
Oh, and I love to see people come back. We have 2 interns with us right now, and one I actually offered a job to, and she's going to stay. But I think the internships, the mentorships of the ranches, and I think a lot of people are doing it now. I know one of our interns is from Texas Tech. Dr. Rusk called me and asked her to come, and thrilled to have her. But I think everything that my generation, can do to encourage uh, any young people to come through, mentor them. I know it's really, really tough to get started. And I mean, if I can't find country to lease, how does somebody else? Well, maybe they don't need quite as much as I would need. So start small. I mean, there's lots of stories of 4-H and FFA kids that started with 1 or 2 heifers, and now they've got a huge cow herd. I think there are a lot of people in our industry that are willing to help if the younger generation is willing to put the work in. And it's not easy. And it's just like what's happening right now in Kansas and Oklahoma. We all have friends. I mean, it is heartbreaking. It is gut wrenching. And this business is not for the faint of heart. So if you're willing to stay and you're willing to put the time and the effort in it, people will notice. And I don't have any magic formula. I think you've got to get yourself positioned with the right people, the right outfits, and that may be getting harder now. I know we don't we don't have nearly as many people working here as we had, but all of our employees are like family. We've all been working together. I think some people have been here 20 years. Uh, develop that loyalty, but I'm not sure I have just a real pat answer, but I think hard work, showing you care from both sides, and you've got a willingness to participate. I think there's even people that would be older people that are getting out of the business that might be happy for a younger couple to come in and mentor them and let them run things. So, and I think there are a lot of absentee owners out there. So at least you can get a start uh, and build a nest egg to probably get out and start on your own. I've heard a lot of people doing that too.
So I want to kind of leave some time for some questions here, and I don't want to keep you talking too long. And I'm sure you got an early morning start tomorrow, as we've kind of talked about. So any questions from you guys, from the audience? Just anything you'd like to ask her, and anything you're curious about? And
Terry, you were talking about buying some bulls. How about the price increase on those bulls this year? And with our calf prices, the last 3 years, we're kind of staying ahead of expenses that have been catching up with us. We've enjoyed a little, like you said, a little cash flow. It's profitability more so, but expenses are catching up with us.
I would agree.
And we're still profitable for cow, but the price of these bulls this year and the heifer replacements, Wow, are we going to say, fortunately, we're still out there being able to hedge ahead for next year and looking at some costs? You got any feelings about if, and our herd count is down again this year, total everywhere. Replacements have come up a little, thankfully.
Yes, sir.
But is anything going to, you got an outlook on the next 2 years?
For me, and I have always done the disclaimer. This is what works for me. I am not predicator of a lot of other people, but I believe that if you align yourself with the right for us, we've got partnerships more or less with our bull suppliers, and it helps us market our calves now. I've always had people in line to get our calves, but our relationship with some of our bull buyers has really helped me. We ended up keeping heifers this year. We had a early spring rain, we had filled our tanks. Unbelievable. I don't remember a spring like this ever, but we decided to go ahead and keep heifers this year in preparation for next year, being able to market some. But my cow numbers were really a little bit down, and even from 2011, we've had to build back very, very slowly, just like all y'all. I don't know. The bull prices are just through the roof right now. It's hard to pay it. I kind of chuckled. I said, "Well, I'm gonna have to go rob a bank to do this," but
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think you're
know.
getting a similar reaction here.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it just but how do I go on buying a lower quality bull? I don't want to do that. Do
No.
I go so and it just puts you back in that corner. If those breeders can help you in another spot, I think trying to develop a relationship along that lines is smart.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the scary part of that is I feel like we're just on the front end of the bull sale season.
Gosh.
I think that's the other point of concern I think a lot of folks have.
Three
So
different bull sales here that are coming up in March, and was that one last Saturday, but all of them said they're short of bulls this year. Probably 20 head off of normal, kind of an average, and not doing any private sales.
No,
No.
I begged,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not that doesn't happen. And I don't buy just a whole lot of bulls every year either. I mean, I'm not the 20 bull person, so I mean, I don't swing that much weight. But we do buy every year because we have enough injuries or other things that fall out that I've got to have a cushion.
Yes.
But my jaw dropped
Yeah.
hard.
Mine did. Ooh, this is going to be a hot one.
Yeah, no, it was. I had
Yeah.
I stashed a little money to do this. Really, after we sold our steers or delivered our steers in November, I put some money in a CD. Matures right now. Full purchases. Truthfully.
Yeah.
so
But it's good for everybody. Hopefully, it keeps going.
Oh, I hope so. I wish, if we could just get a couple of more years, I would be,
Kind
what
of
a
heal.
treat.
Yeah.
other questions, and I may, some of you that are further back, I may need to bring the mic to you, but we'll see if we can make it work. We kind of lucked out because you could hear that question really well. So
Front center, darn.
so other questions for Terry? I think she.
Well, the hunting deal, you think it takes 5 years to develop that?
Oh, I don't know that it takes that long, depending on how you did it. We leased our hunting early. I mean, we've leased it. We have, I am a little bit of a controller. My kids would tell you extreme. I did not like the lease deal at all. And I guess because I lost control, I didn't have full control of what the hunters were doing. Even though they signed agreements, they didn't honor everything that was in them. Anyway, our take on it was guided hunts. But I think a lot of people get along very, very well with the leases. So please don't let me be negative on that. Just didn't work for me. But we slowly went into the guided hunt. Clay really was pretty successful the first year he did it. We had a small house that my dad would stay over here in Waurika that we kind of converted to a lodge initially. The cool part about that is we were turning down hunts because we didn't have places to put people, which was the impetus for us to start thinking about the lodge. And as I said, the lodge was a longer term plan because it was going to be a big investment, and we had to be able to pay for it. So we had to get ourselves positioned with a reputation, with everything we were going to do before we built that lodge. But no, I don't think it takes that long. I wish Clay were here to answer that question. But he's worked very hard at it, and they spend a lot of time with habitat development, the deer management programs. We've been involved in a lot of things like that. And it's no high fence at all. So just trying to enhance the client's experience here. And our bankers told us, he said, we'll fund this, but it's going to be first class. And I think we have one of the premier hunting lodges in the state of Oklahoma at this point in time.
Okay.
Other questions? Well, Terry, I don't see any other questions.
That's good. I rambled too much. I'm sorry, y'all.
Maybe we had too many questions to get through. Maybe that kind of wore them down. So, well, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. I think we really appreciate kind of hearing the input from someone else, and especially a different part of the world, different part of the country. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences. But just thanks for being with us here tonight.
Yes, sir.
For answering all those questions. And I'll send you something, but it won't likely be TCU purple.
No. I'm at OSU. I'm a cowpoke.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I had to double dip.
Well,
But
I don't have very much orange stuff either. So,
I know it.
But
I'm okay.
Thank you for being with us here tonight. Appreciate your willingness to come kind of share your thoughts and tell us a little bit about your operation with us here this evening. So really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.